Hi, my name is Emily. I want to share a story with you, but it's not a usual story. It's about something important: understanding someone, even if they can't speak. Sometimes people think words are the only way to talk, but that's not true. I know this because I once met someone who couldn't speak but could tell me everything with just their eyes. I want you to listen carefully because this is a story about kindness, patience, and listening to things that aren't said out loud. It teaches how life can change when we understand without needing words. Let's begin. It was a sunny afternoon when I first saw her. She sat quietly on a wooden bench in the park, looking at the flowers as if they were the most amazing thing in the world. I smiled at her and waved, but she just looked back with big, kind eyes. I waited, thinking she would say hello, but she didn't speak. Not a word. At first, I felt awkward. People are used to talking back when they hear something. But something about her made me stay. I sat down beside her, and for a few moments we just watched the world together in silence. I noticed how her hands gently touched the edge of her scarf, the way her eyes brightened when she saw a squirrel hop across the grass, and how her shoulders moved slightly with each deep breath. I didn't know her name, and she didn't know mine. But somehow in that quiet moment, I felt like we were having the best conversation ever. Her face spoke a language I had never learned before, a language made of small gestures, tiny smiles, and quiet moments. It was new but not hard to understand. It felt like reading a book without words, and I found myself wanting to learn more about her story. Days passed, and I saw her in the park again. This time I brought a little notebook and some crayons. I thought maybe we could draw together, talk without needing to say anything. When she saw the crayons, her eyes sparkled like stars. She drew a picture of a bird sitting on a tree, free and happy. I drew a sun beside it, smiling down on the bird. We both smiled. No words, just colors and shapes that told stories in ways words never could. In life, not everyone can speak the way we expect. Some people may be too shy, some may have lost their voice, and some may not speak our language. But that doesn't mean they have nothing to say. It's just that we have to listen with more than our ears. We need to watch, feel, and understand. Understanding without speaking can help in so many ways. It teaches us patience, helps us grow closer to people who are different from us, and shows us that not every important thing in life can be said with words. Some feelings are too big for words. Every time I met her after that, we shared stories without talking. We talked with our hands, our drawings, and our smiles. And it made me realize something very beautiful: communication isn't just about talking. It's about understanding. This is a story that keeps growing. Every day I learn new ways to understand others without words, and every day feels like a new adventure. Would you like to continue this story with me? I'd love to hear how you think it should go next. One day, I brought a paper boat to the park. It was a little wobbly, made from an old magazine page, but I thought she might like it. When I showed it to her, she tilted her head, curious. I placed the boat on a small puddle near the bench. The water was still, and the boat floated gently. She clapped her hands, her eyes glowing with delight. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small rock, smooth and round. She placed it in my hand and pointed to the water. I understood. Carefully, I dropped the rock into the puddle, making ripples that danced around the boat. She gave me the biggest smile, and in that moment I knew we had just shared a secret language, something only the two of us understood. With each passing day, our connection grew stronger. I learned how to see the world through her eyes. She didn't need to speak because her actions told me everything. When she was happy, she'd tap her fingers on her knees, like playing an invisible piano. When she was sad, she'd fold and unfold her scarf over and over again, like trying to untangle invisible knots in her heart. I began to notice the same things with others. In crowded places, I saw people who didn't say much but spoke volumes with their eyes or their posture. The tired man on the bus with slumped shoulders, the shy child hiding behind their parent, the woman clutching her purse tightly as if it held all her worries. They were all saying something, even without words. And the more I noticed, the more I understood you don't need to speak to be heard. One day, the girl in the park brought a photo. It was old and worn, with creases running through it like veins. It showed a small family, her, a woman, and a man standing together under a tree. She pointed to the woman and made a motion like holding a baby. I realized the woman was her mother. She held the photo close to her heart, then pointed to the sky. I understood her mother was no longer with her. My heart ached for her, and without thinking, I reached out and held her hand. She squeezed it gently, and we sat there, silent but together, sharing a moment too deep for words. That day, I learned that sometimes just being there is enough. You don't always need to say the right thing because the act of being present speaks louder than words ever could. One morning, it rained unexpectedly. I rushed to the park with an umbrella, hoping to see her. When I arrived, she was already there, standing under a tree, soaked but smiling. I handed her the umbrella, but instead of using it, she twirled it around like a ballerina. The rain fell harder, but we both started laughing, dancing together under the heavy drops. It was messy and joyful, like we were washing away every unspoken sorrow with each step. Our friendship grew with every silent adventure. Some days we played with shadows, tracing shapes on the ground. Other days we collected fallen leaves and arranged them in patterns only we understood. One day, I wrote the word friend on a piece of paper and handed it to her. She looked at it for a moment, then smiled and took a crayon. Beneath the word friend, she drew two hearts, connected by a small line. She pointed to herself, then to me. I didn't need words to understand what she meant. We weren't just friends. We were heart friends, connected, even in silence. As the seasons changed, so did we. Autumn came, painting the park in warm colors, and then winter arrived, wrapping everything in white. I worried I wouldn't see her much in the cold, but she surprised me with a snowball to the back. I turned, laughing, and we had the best snowball fight, filling the air with laughter that didn't need sound to be real. And then, one spring morning, she gave me a little note. It said, "Thank you for hearing me." It was the first time she had written something for me, and it felt like the most beautiful gift I had ever received. I looked at her, my eyes filling with tears, and gave her a big hug. In that hug, we said everything that couldn't be put into words. Our story didn't end there. Every day brought new moments, new lessons in understanding without speaking. And now I want to ask you, how would you continue this story? There are so many people out there waiting to be heard without saying a word. What would you do if you met someone like her? How would you listen? Let's keep this story going together. The days went by like pages turning in a storybook, each moment more precious than the last. One afternoon, I brought two small wind chimes to the park. I thought it would be a fun gift, something we could hang in the trees and let the wind carry our unspoken thoughts. She looked at them with wonder and pointed to a nearby tree. Together we hung the chimes on the lowest branch. When the breeze came, they danced and sang a soft, tinkling tune. She closed her eyes and listened, smiling as if she could hear words in the music. I stood beside her, feeling the same. It was strange how sound, in this quiet way, became another form of silence. The chimes reminded me that not all communication needs to be loud sometimes. A whisper from the wind says more than 1,000 words. Then, something unexpected happened. A boy from a nearby bench noticed the chimes and came over. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at the two of us. She smiled at him, and in her usual gentle way, motioned toward the chimes. The boy gave a small grin and pointed to his own ears, shaking his head. I realized he couldn't hear. For a second, I wondered what would happen next. But then, she did the most amazing thing. She placed her hand on the chimes and let the vibrations travel through her fingertips. The boy hesitated, then reached out and touched the chimes too. His face lit up as he felt the soft buzzing of the metal, and the three of us stood there, connected by something invisible but deeply felt. This moment made me think about how we all experience the world differently. Some people see things others can't. Some people hear things others don't. And some like her and the boy, find ways to speak through feelings and actions. It wasn't about what we lacked, but what we found ways to connect beyond words or sound. Over time, our little group grew. More people joined us: an old man who had lost his voice, a young woman who spoke through sign language, and even a musician who played the guitar but rarely spoke. The park became a place not just for silence but for connection. It was as if, in our quiet corner, we had created a new language, a language of understanding that welcomed everyone. Each of us found joy in different ways. The musician played soft melodies, and the boy learned to feel the vibrations of the guitar strings. The woman with the sign language taught us how to express emotions with our hands, turning every gesture into a story. And the old man? He taught us that a smile and a nod could mean as much as any sentence. Every meeting felt like magic. Without realizing it, we had created a space where no one felt left out or misunderstood. And in that space we discovered that the world was full of unspoken stories waiting to be heard. One evening, as the sun began to set, she handed me a small notebook. I opened it and found little drawings inside, sketches of birds, flowers, and smiling faces. At the bottom of the last page she had written, "Our story continues everywhere, even when we are not together." I looked at her, and she gave me a small, knowing smile. I knew exactly what she meant. Our story wasn't just ours anymore, it belonged to everyone we had touched along the way. And it would keep growing, spreading kindness and understanding to places we hadn't even imagined yet. As the stars began to peek out from the darkening sky, I thought about how far we had come, from a simple smile on a park bench to a shared language that went beyond words. I realized that not every story needs an end, just like not every conversation needs words. Some stories are meant to keep going, living in the hearts of everyone they touch. So now I turn to you. How will you carry this story forward? Will you listen to those who speak without sound, who share without words? Will you find joy in the quiet moments and learn from the unspoken stories around you?